Hello everyone, our topic this week was requested by Roger Carvalho. We'll be going over the Combine from the Half-Life series. Spoilers for the Half-Life series. Le
Okay, so the Combine is a collective term for the Empire that acts as the overarching antagonist group for Half-Life 2, the episodes that follow 2, as well as the most recently released Half-Life Alyx. Thanks to the events of Half-Life 1, known in-universe as the Black Mesa incident, which we'll go into in more detail shortly, by the time of Half-Life Alyx, 2, and beyond, the Combine has asserted its dominance over Earth, and it's quite the tyrannical establishment. The Combine, abbreviated as CMB, which is hilarious since that abbreviation has more syllables than the full name, is the multi-dimension spanning empire of unknown scope, size, and power. Outside of the effects of their rule and a brief glimpse into some other world, generally assumed to be the seat of the Combine's power, we only ever see their forces on Earth. Despite this, we do know a great deal about how they operate, if not exactly who and what they are.
To start with, the Combine is genuinely one of the most awful and horrific alien overlord organizations we've ever seen. They traverse reality, conquering and enslaving any intelligent species they encounter, and then forcefully modify newly encountered species into forms more useful to the Combine, while also harvesting the worlds they find along the way into oblivion, at least if Earth is any example to go by. During the events of Half-Life 1, the scientists at the Black Mesa facility inadvertently opened a large portal to another dimension. They'd made interdimensional contact with Zen, the world touched by the problem portal, many times beforehand. In fact, they'd used materials from Zen to create the problem portal. The difference with the problem portal was that it was much larger and allowed the aliens on Zen to transfer Earthside. What's more, the leader of the aliens on Zen, a powerful psionic being, was mentally holding the portal open in order to allow its people through, kicking off the events of the game. Long story short, it is eventually revealed that all of these aliens, seemingly hostile and looking to take Earth and its resources for their own, were actually refugees, a collection of beings who had fled when their home worlds were conquered by the Combine, and when they found Earth, they saw a ripe new land to harvest and hopefully hide on and/or prepare defenses from should the Combine find them. Unfortunately, the Black Mesa incident led to a long-running series of portal storms, storm-like phenomena that raged planet-wide, opening portals to dimensions, presumably at random, and laying waste to population centers both through the nature of the storms themselves — it was a violent process — and due to such things as alien wildlife flooding the planet. Evidently, the portal storms caught the attention of the Combine, who at some point swooped down on Earth and conquered the entire planet in a mere 7 hours. The planet-wide devastation was so severe that once communication with the Combine was established at roughly the 7-hour mark, humanity accepted unconditional surrender in lieu of total annihilation, though pockets of resistance did remain. Which was the state of the planet for the roughly 20 years between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. As a side note, Half-Life Alyx takes place 5 years before Half-Life 2, which puts it about 15 years into the Combine's occupation.
The Combine have a predilection for genetically and cybernetically reshaping conquered species into forms deemed more useful and often more malleable to their own interests, at least when it comes to those working directly under them. Fully 2/3 of the enemy units encountered during Half-Life 2 and beyond are biomechanical, with only a small portion of the Combine's displayed combat and reconnaissance forces being entirely mechanical. While their forces are almost entirely biomechanical, their buildings and most of their personal transports are often entirely mechanical, with no visible biological elements incorporated into their designs. It is known that at least some of these creatures are cloned or otherwise biologically engineered copies of the original creature type, rather than all of them being altered versions of the base creature. Good news for the human race? Maybe? Because we are never shown the base creature types, however, it's impossible to know how much of the base creature was altered to reach its current state. Although it is probably safe to say that such devices as the propeller and cannon that are now intrinsic parts of these Combine gunships were not naturally occurring prior to being absorbed into the Combine.
Another reason we don't really know how far the Combine's modifications have taken these species from their original design or appearance is because the few human modifications we've seen the Combine make range from the mildly horrifying to the extremely altered. Human Combine soldiers, known as Overwatch soldiers, or more tellingly, the transhuman arm of the Combine Overwatch forces, have their memories either erased or repeatedly suppressed over time, removing their ties to their past lives and even humanity itself, which makes them more malleable and loyal to the Combine. They also go through numerous biomechanical augmentations, with one soldier found unmasked in Half-Life 2 that had ports and tubes implanted into his body, while shots from the more recent game show much more wildly altered subjects under the soldiers' masks. But more horrifying still are the Stalkers. Humans deemed treacherous or otherwise irredeemably useless, like rebels, are converted into Stalkers if they aren't killed. Internal organs are removed, rendering them incapable of eating anything but what can be given to them via a port attached through the ribs. Their hands and feet are also removed, replaced with absolutely garbage synthetic attachments, and a host of other adjustments are made to both mind and body, rendering them effective zombies that follow Combine orders without question and without much ability to react or cause problems, even if they could question their decidedly evil overlords.
At the top of the Combine food chain, at least so far as we've seen on Earth, lie the Advisors. Worm or grub-like creatures, roughly twice as big around as a person and of a similar length. They wear mechanical arms for obvious purposes and have a long, deadly tongue-like organ that can extend with such force as to pierce the skull of a human being. It is unknown whether this organ serves any purpose, such as extracting nutrients like a hummingbird, but considering that the Advisors are also powerful psionic creatures, it is also possible they can extract information in this manner. They appear to use telekinetic powers to fly around, and it's possible that they have trouble breathing Earth's atmosphere, as they wear what appears to be some kind of breathing mask over an orifice on the face, presumably the mouth, as it is from there that the Advisor's tongue extends. As expected with any creature with psionic abilities, the Advisors are extremely intelligent, and if they aren't the highest-ranking members of the Combine, we as an audience have not been exposed to their superiors.
Why the Combine chose to conquer Earth can only be speculated upon. Their motivations are never revealed in-game. Based upon their actions, however, the two theories considered most likely among the fanbase are that A, the Combine simply came to exploit Earth's resources, both for the planet itself and in terms of the human population, or B, they came in order to study and understand human teleportation technology. The human resistance's one advantage against the overwhelming might and technological prowess of the Combine in the battle for Earth is that humans have figured out teleportation. Side note, evidently Portal and Half-Life share the same universe, though neither has any plot-significant effects upon the other. For all their advancements, the Combine utilizes dark energy for nearly all of its power sources, for example, which is a real but theoretical scientific concept with absurd potential. The Combine can open portals between realities, but so far have been unable to perfect teleportation inside of a single universe, forcing them to rely upon more conventional means of travel, despite the fact that, presumably, since they're conquering worlds in alternate realities, they basically own the entirety of at least one or two dimensions. As is made evident in-game, while far from perfected, humanity has workable in-single-universe teleportation technology. Alternatively, it's also possible that the Combine is looking to accomplish both goals, or they simply gobble up any and all civilizations they come across, regardless of a civilization's presumed value prior to conquest. Once they've conquered a planet, the Combine maintains control through a combination of fear, propaganda, and psychological manipulation, again, assuming Earth is any indication. It's possible, even likely, that the process used for Earth is one of a number of common protocols for maintaining order on a conquered world, but we have no evidence either way. After utterly decimating Earth's defensive forces, the Combine moved the remaining humans into a number of city centers, both to keep an eye on them as well as to protect them from the raging alien wildlife that now roved the planet. Earth's people were evidently already in the process of doing this when they were conquered. They then activated the Suppression Field, an invisible energy field engulfing the entire planet that either removed or severely inhibited the human sex drive, as well as, more importantly, preventing important DNA chains from forming in the human body, preventing humanity, this only affected humans, from being able to procreate, even assuming that their suppressed libidos could be overcome. Which is, to us, the truest indicator of how strong a stranglehold the Combine held on humanity, because for 20 years, people were knowingly left incapable of bearing children, and despite that fact, the resistance movement was an underground thing, rather than an all-out war.
By the time Half-Life 2 begins, there is literally not a single living human on planet Earth under the age of 20. No children, infants, nothing. To maintain this control on humanity, the Combine used propaganda to, among other things, sell the suppression field as a great thing, something that was helping humanity overcome its weakness, and which would be turned off once we'd succeeded. Right. In case that didn't work, they also used constant and overwhelming force. If City 17, the setting for much of Half-Life 2 and beyond, is any indication, all of humanity lived in a police state, with Combine police forces encouraged to conduct random and often violent police searches of citizens, deducting food rations for real or perceived treacheries, and hauling the worst offenders off to be transformed into stalkers, and you'd better believe that everyone knows about the stalkers, both what they are and how they're made. The Combine makes heavy use of memory alteration in its military forces and presumably with stalkers, But it's also implied that they use this tactic on the general public as well, with some civilians muttering warnings not to drink the water as the player walks by, complaining of finding it hard to remember various things. There are even soda machines full of water that has presumably been spiked with this memory-altering drug. All of this being said, over the course of Half-Life 2 and beyond, the Resistance movement, with ample help from the player, is able to destroy the Combine's link to the other dimensions, and dismantle much of their infrastructure on Earth, while also rallying a decent portion of the general populace and deactivating the suppression field, putting Earth in the best position it's been in the last 20 years. It's not over yet though. Not only do the Combine still have plenty of forces on Earth, before their connection to the greater Combine collective was severed, they got a distress signal out. So it's only a matter of time before the Combine attempts to bring the hammer down on humanity once again. The only question is, will the Resistance be ready?
And that's basically the Combine, the evil alien overlords of the Half-Life series. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave us a like and maybe share it with someone you know might like it. If you have ideas for videos you'd like to see in the future, do like Roger Carvalho and let us know in the comments down below. If you'd like to see more videos from us in the future, be they lore, let's play, or other, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
In the meantime, this has been True
Masters
Masters
and
Morons,
Morons, signing off.